What's up, everyone? It's Karthik with MoneyVest. So we've got huge earnings coming out for Nvidia tomorrow. It is a stock that's worth well over $3 trillion, $3.6 trillion to be precise, closing in at just over $147 on the day, up almost 5% after a couple different upgrades coming in. I'm also going to break down exactly how Nvidia has performed previously based on its historical earnings volatility, how many times it has beaten expectations on revenue and earnings in the last 8 quarters, and what to expect from the company tomorrow after the bell. So if you come over to our market calendar, under earnings calendar, you'll notice tomorrow after the bell, we've got Nvidia reporting $33.6 billion is the revenue expectations, with an EPS expectations of just over 75 cents in earnings per share. So if you come over to some of the most important updates, first of all, I've got a huge position in Nvidia, as I'm sure you already know. It's in my options portfolio, 600 shares at $107.76 cost basis, currently up a little bit over 36% on this stock. And I've also got calls against this stock as well. So tomorrow, I'm very net neutral when it comes to the direction of where it trades. If it actually rips higher, that's totally fine, because obviously I've got the shares, the underlying position is going to do well, but at the same time the calls are not. I mean, I'm also actually capped at 125. I did roll out my calls today from 122 to 125, so I was able to unlock another $3 in capital gains per share. And if of course Nvidia stock drops like it did in the last earnings, it actually dropped a little bit over 6% the day after the earnings, then of course the calls are actually going to do well, because that's a hedge against the underlying position. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. It's going to be a very important day for the entire market, and also for the entire semiconductor sector, because semis more recently have been a lot weaker compared to some of the other parts of the market. So Nvidia could really make it or break it for not just the semi sector, but also for the entire market as well. So be ready after the markets close tomorrow. And this right here is the entire update, with Nvidia stock rising on AI spending, a chip deal ahead of the earnings as well. So following bullish notes from a couple different Wall Street analysts, citing strong demand for chips of its earnings report set for Wednesday afternoon, Stifel analyst Ruben Roy raised his price target from $165 to $180 on the stock, while Trust Securities William Steen also raising his prices from $148 to $167. And they pretty much mentioned, and I quote, a diverse set of data points, including continued high spending on AI infrastructure by hyperscalers and demand for Nvidia's latest Blackwell AI chips. Although they have also been overheating, there's been some speculated reports that the latest Blackwell chips have been overheating due to a lot of chips being sort of congested together, 72 chips together, which we'll go over later in the video. But we believe that Nvidia is well positioned in the market that combine to yield an overall TAM of more than $100 billion exiting 2025, and a longer term opportunity funnel that could approach almost $1 trillion as well. And there was one more cloud provider, Nebius Group, NBIS, is launching its first GPU cluster in the US, which will use up to 35,000 Nvidia chips. So a couple different bullish catalysts and notes coming in, with Nvidia pushing up prior to the earnings up almost 5%. But there was one more catalyst that came out a couple days ago, that AI chips are overheating in servers, and there was a report that suggested that the graphics processing units, GPUs, overheat when connected together in server stacks designed to hold up to 72 chips. And Nvidia is working with leading cloud service providers as an integral part of their engineering team and process, and the engineering iterations are normal and expected. And Jim Cramer also weighed in this issue, and he said, and I quote, "Maybe this time really is the top. I'm more inclined to think you're getting a buying opportunity in Nvidia thanks to the information publishing a story that may simply not be that." But either way, of course, there's a lot of concerns that how much further upside does Nvidia really have, considering its historical record of beating expectations 100% of the times if you look at the last 8 quarters. So first things first, if you come over to our MoneyVest platform, by the way, you can access all of this with the link down below. There is a 16% annual discount available until the end of this month. You get access to the entire MoneyVest website, including all the trade alerts, options updates, as well as all the members only videos as well. But if you come over to fundamental analysis, and if you switch this over to quarterly, and we come over to, let's say, last 12 quarters, take a look at the revenue number here. absolutely gone parabolic after 2023. You can see the staggering increase in revenue every single quarter, and that's the artificial intelligence, the AI influx, and a lot of liquidity coming in from some of the biggest companies demanding the GPUs created by Nvidia. If you come take a look at gross profit and net income, which is the bottom line profit as well, same thing. I mean, this has just been an incredible amount of explosion for the top and the bottom line for the company. If I remove for revenue, you can see gross profit has also gone from 9.4 billion to well over 22.5 billion dollars, and of course the bottom line, which is net income, it's gone from 6.1 billion to well over 16 billion dollars, increasing over 200-300% in a very short period of time. Now, how much more upside there is for Nvidia? That's the real question. Now, revenue expectations at over 33 billion dollars, and if you take a look at the last 9 quarters now, Nvidia has beaten expectations on revenue every single time. 100% probability that it is going to beat expectations on revenue. And with a median and average of about 5.9 and just over 7% respectively. So if we essentially are looking at a 5.9, let's say almost 6% beat on the revenue number, we're looking at a revenue of just over $35 billion is what Nvidia is going to report based on this very conservative 6% beat expectations, based on what historical numbers have told us. If you come over to earnings per share though, that's been a little bit less than 100%. It's been about 88%. The only time Nvidia missed expectations was back in October of 2022, so 2 years ago. Nvidia missed expectations. They were supposed to report 7 cents. They reported 6 cents per share. But ever since then, they have beaten expectations, 100% track record since October 2022 by a median of about 10.8 and an average of 10.2%. So we can safely assume that this is also going to come in with a strong beat of about 10%. So if I multiply this with 10%, we're looking at 82 cents in earnings per share. Again, these are just consensus. These are just expectations here based on what we have seen historically. Now, how is the stock going to react? If you take a look, the October quarter tends to actually be negative. This has been very interesting because if you come over to October 22, the stock was down 1.4%. October 23, this right here, stock was down 2.4% following earnings. And this right here is October 2024, which is what we're going to get for tomorrow. And the last earnings was also, Nvidia was down after reporting earnings, after beating expectations 4 and 5% respectively for revenue and EPS. The stock was down over 6% the day following the earnings. So I'm not really super sure if the stock is actually going to be higher after the earnings, especially if you look at October seasonality as well as the last earnings. But there's one more thing that I really want to show you, which is very interesting. If you come back to our MoneyVest platform and come over to company overview, scroll all the way at the bottom, you can actually see stocks seasonality as well. This is another feature that we have added on our platform. And if you go to stock seasonality, and if you go, let's say for the last 10 years, and if you go back 1 year, 2014 to 2023, because that's the 10-year worth of data that we're getting, November is actually one of the best months for Nvidia, with an 80% probability that it's actually going to be higher. And all these years are listed, how November, the month of November, how Nvidia has done in that month. And you want to see even something more crazy, if you go over the last 5 years, that probability jumps to 100%, meaning the last 5 years, Nvidia stock has never been down in the month of November, with an average gain of 16.5%, 100% probability. And if you come over to how Nvidia is doing this November, we are once again up by 10.7%. And if the average gain is 16.5, we can assume maybe, just maybe, there is another 6% increase left in the month of November for Nvidia. But once again, if you take a look at October 23 and October 22, these couple quarters worth of earnings, Nvidia stock did drop after the earnings. So it's kind of hard to predict exactly what Nvidia is going to do tomorrow after the bell. But my inclination is going to be a little bit more of a pop. So I'm expecting somewhat of a rally from Nvidia, considering some strong beats, some decent beats coming in. So we're going to be expecting a reasonable 6% beat on revenue, and again, a 10% beat on EPS, with a stock pushing higher by an average of about 4 to 6%. That's really been the number here, 4 to 6% median and average, which is still crazier to think considering that Nvidia is still a $3.6 trillion stock. But at the end of the day, of course, nobody can really know how Nvidia is going to trade after the earnings. But I really wanted to go over some data, which I think was very, very interesting. Now, that being said, coming over to the technical analysis here, we're pretty much trading near all-time highs, and the next resistance and target is going to be up to 149, 150. That's pretty much the all-time high, and I wouldn't be surprised if you do see a little bit of a breakout, 3 to 4% rally, pushing past 150 here for this massive stock, and again, pushing closer and closer to $4 trillion. So that's it. That's all for today. Hope you all enjoyed this update and a complete breakdown on Nvidia's earnings prior to the numbers coming out for tomorrow. Make sure to drop a like, subscribe to the channel, share this video with other Nvidia traders and investors, and also check out the links down below if you're interested in joining us with that 16% annual discount available until the end of this month. You can pretty much access the entire Discord, trade alerts, members only videos, as well as the Moneyvest website. And as always, happy investing. I'll see you all in the next video.